It's time. We have now actually just a quarter before 12. We have 25 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the audience, if we will have some interaction. So welcome, Stefan. Welcome I can actually greet you in person up to here now, like Florian, Kumbirai, Berit, Anna, Raphael, Ben, Peter. So we have a few people in here already. And a few people will join along the way, because this is what Hop-In is all about, right? So we have in parallel 4 or 5 other sessions, and so people can hop in from one to the other. So depending on how you and I perform, they will stay or not. So we can do either the Waldorf.
No pressure, No pressure.
No pressure, but we can do the Waldorf at Stettler piece here, or we do. Or we do some like serious, boring corporate stuff, but
like we always do. You and I,
like you and I are particularly the right people for it. Yeah. Let me for this round introduce you a little bit and how I met you before you introduce yourself, of course, and your role. So Stefan and I have met. Oh, just for the audience, for the ones who joined later, I'm Cem. I'm the founder of Startupnight, and I know Stefan many years now, that because they with Volkswagen have been part of this event with a location in Berlin for the past years, when we were still live around. And then this is when I met Stefan. So he was in charge, being an ambassador of Volkswagen, which I found a really true cool role that someone could have. Actually, you had it on your business card, as I remember.
Yes.
That was really cool. And then you moved to Lisbon to open the new digital lab there. And so we are talking today about the recruiting topic, because this is interesting to startups, it's interesting to corporates, everyone in the situation of the pandemic, of course. Should you hire national, local, right? Should you hire your European-wide or even global? What are the advantages, what disadvantages? Let's not go into too much legal topics around here. We maybe touch this a little bit, but let's talk about more of the plus and like the pros and cons of doing that. But please take the time and introduce yourself really quick.
Okay, I'll just try to fill the gaps of what you said just now. So yeah, I work for Volkswagen for quite some time now. I've always been in Group IT. Started the really interesting journey around like innovation in IT with the Digital Lab in Berlin in 2015. Back in 2015, actually started a little bit earlier than that, but in 2015 we founded the Digital Lab at the Spree in Berlin. And like you said, after the setup phase, I was the ambassador, which were really exciting times. And then towards the end of 2017, I came here with 2 colleagues, Tom and Cassie, to set up the new SDC, or Software Development Center, here in Lisbon. And since, like you said, since the end of 2018, since our opening, we're live. I now have a team of around 50 people, still growing. We want to go up to 80 people in the future. And yeah, recruiting is one of the main topics that I deal with in my job here, or that we deal with. Of course, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And it's quite a challenge, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So really brief about what I'm doing here.
Super. No, so cool. Thank you so much again for taking your time here. So before we go into the details of the recruiting process and the do's and don'ts, etc. But why did Volkswagen decide to move or open their own software development center in Lisbon in the first place, and not just hire the service or contracting, internationally through agencies or whatever? Why did you go there yourself?
I got to go back a few years to give you like a proper background for it. So a few years back, we realized, especially in IT and software development, that for some, let's say, critical products, we are way too dependent on external partners, because the external partners would then, be the ones to know everything about the product, and we would at most have a technical project manager on our side. And we kind of had a feeling of a loss of control. And which is why we said, okay, we got to get the critical knowledge for critical projects or products back into the company, which is the core thought around why the SDC software development centers, or the Digital Lab in the first place, were founded. And back then it was really just the Digital Lab in Berlin, and by now the SDC Lisbon is a part of a network of SDCs. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we currently have 9 or 10 SDCs out there which are live, which produce software products for Volkswagen. Currently, the collaboration model is to really build internal software, or not internal software, but software with internal business units. Those business units who have a desire to provide digital products to the end customer of Volkswagen. So, namely sales, for example, sales or after sales, anywhere or in any area that you can think of, where either it's standalone software or sometimes there's software interacting with a car. But we are currently separated from the in-car, the embedded software, because this is something that a different division in Volkswagen takes care of.
Okay, so let me jump right into one thing you mentioned, talking about hiring your own software developers, so the knowledge is within your company and not contracted, and leaving maybe depending on whatever project you're running. How is that paid off so far? Is that like two things to it? Did it pay off for you? So do you think you made the right decision this way, or how about the flexibility you might lose?
Okay, so first of all, I gave you the general background as to why we've got the SDCs, right? The SDC Lisbon specifically, I didn't really answer that question, or I didn't really give you those details. The SDC Lisbon specifically, because Lisbon in Europe is seen as one of the IT hotspots. It has a really like a thriving entrepreneurial and startup ecosystem. It's not so visible like it is in Berlin, for example, but it's definitely there. There are lots and lots of people dealing with crazy innovative stuff. And at some point we said we want to be part of it. And well, at some point it was of course also like the business approach, or the business case approach, in a way that Portugal, at least a few years back, provided some less expensive work power, but that has changed dramatically over the last few years. So that's
all over the world, right? Yeah, it had changed all over the world, right? So
yeah.
So what is really quick and on this one then now? How is your experience then with the people being onboarded? Are they staying with you? Do you have a lot of fluctuation, or how does it work?
Luckily, we don't, but you have to really take a look at things from a different angle. In Germany, Volkswagen, once you get a Volkswagen contract, you stay with the company, right? Like you usually stay with all the big companies. Like this is a kind of a traditional thing. You made it, you are there, and you're gonna stay until you go into your
retirement.
Retirement. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but that's boring.
This is first of all, it's boring, and secondly, it's a completely different thing over here. I can be happy if people stay for 2-3 years, okay, and that's about it. Like we have a lot of on average, the team is about 30 years old, so many young people working in the team, and of course they get like lots of career opportunities. They get lots of offers, and we can surely distinguish ourselves from competitors because of the atmosphere, because of the culture that we built here. But then on the other hand, at some point it's like, okay, I know how green the grass is here. I'll take a look over the fence and I'll see what's going on the neighbor's garden.
But that is a very good point. Let me jump again right in here. So are these people then international people, or are these
Yes.
from Portugal? Are they from Lisbon? Are they moving to you to
Yes.
join the space? And are they moving then out of Lisbon again if they leave you, or are they just moving to another company and staying in Lisbon? Lots of questions.
So wow, yeah, exactly. Lots of questions. So first of all, we have an international team. The majority of the team, like 70%, is still Portuguese, and this is from my point of view, this is quite normal because we're really trying to pull from the ecosystems in Lisbon and in Porto, or Braga, the big cities here in Portugal. Up until before the pandemic, of course, we had a general guideline of, or requirement of people moving to Lisbon because we do pairing. We are required to have people present in the office, right? So some things might change around this. We're working at more flexible working models, but as a matter of fact, the majority of the team for now is Portuguese, but we also recruit internationally. So for like we've got two things to consider. First of all, Lisbon has an amazing quality of life. Of course, it's right by the sea, it's right by the water. You can go surfing, you can do anything. You can go to the beach right after work. It's great, right? You have, for me, that's as being a foodie, it's great. Lisbon has lots of amazing restaurants, very nice people. So the quality of life is there. But then we only have limited options. Despite of the great quality of life, we only have limited options in terms of the salary ranges that we can offer in the country to attract people from, let's say, Northern European countries. But we don't have problems at all attracting people from Brazil, for example, which has a great connection or a big connection to Portugal anyways. So yes, we do have quite a few Brazilians in the team. We have Irish, we have Romanian, we have one German, we have British, we have somebody from India. So it is quite international. And we really try to be international because it really adds to the mix. It adds to the quality of people here and the quality of the culture.
Okay.
Speaking of the quality of the culture here, I'm very proud that our approach or our how do you say, our motto, our philosophy of pushing for women in tech has become quite fruitful. So nowadays, I'm not the guy being on stage, making some advertisement for us, wanting to hire women in tech. Now it's the women in our team, the great women in our team speaking for themselves. And we've got a 25% ratio of women in the team. And so it doesn't stop there. We still want to go 50-50. That is our motivation. But as you can imagine, as you probably can confirm, it's an exceptional high ratio in IT.
Yeah. Oh, totally, absolutely. And it's also an entrepreneurship and in the startup world. It's also, it's growing. Yeah, we have it on stage in parallel right now. Mali talking about a feminine economy, so there's a strong power in this one, and
rightfully so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think diverse teams, it's not only women and men, but also like international, contribute to teams, right? To the spirit of it and knowledge and learning from others. That's great. Coming really quick back to one, you mentioned something where you might be different than maybe a startup who's watching us here right now. You said you want people in your office, and isn't that, maybe I heard it wrong, but isn't that something in these times, let's call them these times, something very unmodern? And didn't it show us that there are tons of different possibilities and, even opportunities in a war for talent to like say, hey, you can be hired through Lisbon, but you can work from, I don't know, Buenos Aires or from, you mentioned Brazil. So let's say Sao Paulo or so, right? Should it matter?
So what I said is, before the pandemic, we had the requirement for everybody to be in the office because we do pairing. People ideally, pair being in one room together. Yeah. But during the pandemic and nowadays, of course, we need to look into more flexible possibilities. So at the moment, it's me and maybe 6 other people being in the office. And the majority of the team, like I said, we're about 50 at the moment, is working from home. And this is what we've been doing more or less from mid-March last year on. So the shift to working from home, was done really quick. And we're not really going to challenge this. As a matter of fact, the culture that we established here, it thrives with people being in the office, with people interacting face to face. But in the future, we will definitely leave that responsibility of either going to the office or staying at home in the product teams. So I'm not going to interfere. I reserve the right, being in charge of the location, to call people in for very few selected events or occasions, but the majority of the times the product teams can decide. So we will establish, and we're about to establish the possibilities for mixed mode collaboration. So people being in the office and people working in the same team but remote. So we need to approach this, and we are approaching this from my point of view properly. What you asked for, the possibility to have people work remotely from in completely different time zones, this, at least for now, is out of scope for us. Okay. If people want to be in Portugal, and if they want to be working from Portugal but not necessarily from Lisbon, and they want to do so remotely, this is fine. This is not a problem at all. But so far, it also has tax reasons as to why it's not that easy to let people work internationally. Betriebsstättenrisiko, what we had in our chat 2 days ago, a very awkward German word, but this is something that's definitely out there. So there is a tax risk. I heard that these models are possible, but so far I'm very hesitant to say, yeah, of course, let's do it. No,
it's good. It's there are sometimes also company rules, and there are you're from Volkswagen, right? So then maybe you cannot decide freely as maybe a startup could do, but that's also, there are also legal constraints, right? So where are you taxed? Where are you all of these kind of things? But let's not run into this one. There's a quick question here from Peter. Maybe you can.
Cem, hang on. I think that a major accomplishment already, which would have been completely unthinkable before Corona, is that we leave that responsibility up to the product teams whether they want to come to the office or not. Of course, at some, we need to try things out. We have an office space here, which is reasonably expensive. And so at some point, we also might have to deal with the consequences in a way that we see that not as many people come to the office as we thought that would come. And so we might have to scale the space down and maybe, leave this beautiful Portuguese palace that we're in at the moment. But that's up to us to decide in a few months from now. It's with the numbers going down, we're really looking into the possibility of letting the teams decide and having the real possibility to come here, and then we'll see. We'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
So well, then maybe Peter's question, right?
Yeah, it's when one person might be exactly the one trying out the way you're doing it. It is Peter. He's asking how can he engage with you to see if there are career opportunities in Lisbon right now.
Yes.
Reach out to you here through the channel.
Yeah, you can reach out to me directly. However, we as Volkswagen Digital Solutions have a reasonably big presence in LinkedIn. So look for Volkswagen Digital Solutions, and then you will find the SDC Lisbon and the jobs which are being offered there. I can put that in the chat too.
Super. All right, let's jump into the recruiting process and how to find people. Like Peter here is now doing more or less an initiative recruiting try. He's trying.
Yeah.
But sometimes you are looking for a new recruits, right? So maybe in the senior ones, maybe juniors or whatever, certain languages and software skills. How do you or where do you look for them in terms of channels, but also in terms of universities and events, fairs, or how do you reach out to the ecosystem to find people?
Yeah, Birgit also asked this question. So, of course, we have various channels of the obvious online stuff as well, like LinkedIn, what I just mentioned. We've got our ads out there on several platforms. Yes, we do try to engage in events, real life events in the past, and online more and more towards going towards online events now. We do have in the company, not necessarily for the SDC, but in the company Digital Solutions, we do have a few selected approaches with headhunters, with recruiters.
Yeah.
I'm putting a question mark behind SDC because sometimes it's really difficult to explain the whole story of the SDC and how we work and how the culture is, or to have it explained by a recruiter. So I've always been a little bit hesitant here, but of course this is one of our channels. We are in contact with universities. In fact, we've got a few people in the team who are actually professors at the university teaching stuff. So one of our designers, for example, he has a class going for designers at university, and that way we have like a sometimes an official and sometimes a bit of a sneaky approach to letting people know that we're here. And which quality that we pursue in people when it comes to recruiting.
Okay. Kubirai is teaching Africans actually to Germans, and so maybe they could be skilled immigrants. That's just like a side note, not necessarily to our side. Could we connect them somewhere, Volkswagen Telekom? Would that make sense to take that with us? Because there's an immigration service this is for you, Kubirai, there's an immigration service session in here as well. They help you on how to get people here, and they know from Berlin partner in Berlin, actually, how and what companies are looking for people. But do you look also from like in different continents also for people, or is it just like internet presence and people find you through your presence, like you just described?
We like right before the whole Corona situation kicked in last year, we were actually preparing for recruiting days in Brazil. So we of course we try to hit the markets where we see that we have talent that is interested to work with us, a Portuguese company. We try to target them directly. And we're currently evaluating, and we have a recruitment team in Volkswagen going to evaluate the possibilities of doing this online. It's of course a lot of the charm and a lot of the cultural benefits get a little bit lost in translation when you do stuff online. Sometimes it's like, okay, just another online meeting, and people might not be as enthusiastic as they are when you go face to face. But for now, this is what we have to do. This is what we're pursuing, and let's talk again in half a year from now to see how that went. What I gotta say is, back in March last year, we were extremely hesitant to even think about recruiting people remotely. We would have to switch our whole assessment process to going remote. We didn't know what to expect. We had no planability in terms of how long this situation is going to persist. And at some point we were like, okay, let's give it a try. And it was really, really good. We made some really, really good experiences. Like now, which is kind of a funny thing, is every once in a while, when somebody comes to the office, I'm like, have we ever met in person? I don't know. Like, because we see each other online so much, and I can't distinguish this anymore. But we were so hesitant, and after we tried, it was like, not that bad at all.
That is such a wonderful point. I have in my other life, I have a team of 10 who are actually only 2 people are working in the same city and within Germany and Poland. And I actually, after over a year within the project, I saw 2 of them as a local event for the first time. And it was like, I thought you would be taller. Things like that, right? That is so funny because she was sitting in the attic. And that made her appear much taller than she was, and that was like the funniest conversation. But let's change, coming towards the end. But let's change a little bit the view away from what you are looking for and how you recruit, but on your recruits. What kind of expectations do you experience? People have, right? We're talking here millennials mostly. What are they looking for in a company? What are they telling you others are offering? What is your feeling? What an employer should offer if you want to recruit nationally, European, even globally?
So my true belief is that it's not just about the salary. However, the discussion is about salary very often, especially with a highly dynamic market that we face here in Lisbon. There are of course companies coming in, especially American companies coming in, and they don't even need to make the effort to recruit themselves in a way that they put ads out there or anything. They just make buyouts. They have an analyst which checks the most interesting companies, and then they approach those people right away or directly, and they come in with salaries that no Portuguese company would be able to pay, and we're talking about sometimes between 50 and 100% more. And this is pretty crazy. So this is the situation that we're faced with in general. So of course, money is always the talk of the town. But then, I mean, we pretty much fulfill the cliche, right? Here at the SDC. Like we, in normal times, let me call it normal times, as you know from the Digital Lab in Berlin, we offer breakfast, we offer, snacks and drinks, we got a ping pong table, we got a PlayStation, we mingle a lot, and on Friday afternoons or on Friday evenings when everybody's done with their jobs, you usually see quite a bunch of people hanging out in front of the building, having a drink and talking, about anything. And so I think community and culture is something that is very well received, but this attracts a specific kind of people, and that's the specific kind of people I want to attract, or we want to attract, of course. But then for some people it might be quite easy to just get a proper salary, they do their 9-to-5 jobs, and it's done, right? But we need to offer a variety of benefits. I mean, we've also got some programs where also rather typical for a corporate, where you can get certain stuff cheaper because of special deals we got with companies. You can get a health insurance here for your family. You can get your public transport ticket here. You get some money on top for working remote and whatnot. So it's got to be quite a bit of a mix here, without waving the advertisement flag too much.
Looking a little bit at the time, one last question to you, and as no one other is raising the question here.
Well, maybe people are waiting for a Q&A session at some point. I don't know. We've had a few questions.
No. We offered right in the beginning to ask questions along the way. Guys, please, just ask anytime if you have a further question. No, so last question from my side would be, everyone is looking for software developers in any kind of back end, front end, whatever language, etc. So these are it's like the it job, right, at the moment, right, to have. I know Deutsche Telekom, is looking really hard for and we're not talking tens or hundreds of people, even more. And so probably the same with you at Volkswagen, and then you want to source them in, just like you said, Telekom is there in a very similar situation. How well do you think companies, and I'm including startups now, are attracting this target group? Would you say that you are doing it if you want to have a best practice example, look at us? Or
I truly believe that under the given circumstances that we are a big corporate, we're doing a really good job attracting talent. We're giving people a lot of freedom. The developers can choose the tech stack they want to work with. Nobody is really forced to stick to an architecture book of standards, for example. So there is a lot of freedom for creativity and for bringing in your own opinion. But I think there's probably room for more. So if you would be able to moonshoot, it would probably be with less bureaucracy on the product side, for example, less bureaucracy that in the long run, you don't want to talk to legal every time you come up with a new release of a product. We have a continuous integration, like release cycles, maybe sometimes several releases per day, and you don't want to agree with legal every time. So these processes can indeed be much smoother than they currently are. But like I said, within the given circumstances. I know that some companies out there, and I don't want to point the finger, don't get me wrong, but some companies out there, they also fulfill the cliche like we do, the ping pong table, the breakfast, and so on, but they don't really live up to the requirements. It's like, okay, guys and girls, here you got the ping pong table, now shut up, right? So they are not really authentic in the way that they do things, and they don't put the right people with the right mindset in leadership positions. And I think leadership in these teams is a whole different, it requires a whole different style than in, because we have a flat hierarchy, than in, steep hierarchies. In a steep hierarchy, you can just delegate and you can just, manage by numbers. I'm being very blunt here, but you can just manage by numbers. Here, yes, I have to do the management by numbers by myself mostly. And at the same time, I don't know if I always have it, but a certain level of empathy is required. I sometimes feel like the mom and dad for everybody, right? But it's much more human-centered, which is something I'm really, really happy about, because I don't want to talk about numbers. It's humans after all, right? But I think this is the mistake that some companies are doing. They just think that they can apply agile with all the decorative stuff, but the core, human leadership is sometimes a little bit forgotten or disregarded, let's say. So yeah.
All right.
We can talk about this for an hour, man.
I know, and it's too early to change this to a beer or so. You're also having water. Let's filling the cliche. But Stefan, closing question. We have a few, recruiters here and a few people who want to be recruited. As you just mentioned, you are sometimes feel like the mom or the dad of the team. Give advice for how to do this right, looking at recruiting nationally, European or global. Closing this round here. I give you a minute. Not a minute to think, a minute to add.
I think it's all about authenticity, right? It's when I gave the example about women in tech, when I gave the example about women in tech, at some point you need to reach a stage where I am not important anymore, where I do not need to be the speaker for promoting women in tech anymore. It needs the women, hopefully, if you've done a good job, are going to be the ones testifying and giving their testimonials and saying, hey, this really is a good environment for women in tech, and it's equal pay, it's equal treatment, everybody's treating each other respectfully. So and with authenticity, I believe you can actually manage a lot. But authenticity and getting that authenticity message across also requires a lot of engagement, right? You want to work in a lot of different channels, and you need to make a leap of faith in those various channels, and just see the potential. Sometimes it will work out, sometimes it won't. But purely going for online or letting someone like a recruiter relay the message that you want to get across, like for you or instead of you, is probably the wrong approach. You want to expose yourself. You need to expose yourself, and you also need to be able to, at some point, and you know me, I've said this a lot, to say, oh yeah, we fucked this up. We weren't good doing this. And it's difficult, especially for German companies, to not be perfect. They want to do everything perfect, but everybody needs to be aware they're in a completely new situation, in a completely new environment. So every once in a while, you fuck things up. It's normal, right? So, and that also belongs to, authenticity, or to a certain part of authenticity.
All right, no, great statement. I think I can second that, right? So, Stefan, I cannot wait to see you again in live, for real, and having a drink or two again with you. And was great talking to you.
Next week I will be in Berlin, so maybe that's a possibility.
Then reach out.
Let's go
I'll join you anywhere. All right.
Cool.
Hey, to the audience here, thank you so much. Please join the next sessions, and I'll see you around. And thank you, Stefan. Thank you all. Goodbye and out.
Bye, Jem, and Virginius from Lisbon. Bye-bye.
I caught them. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.